So I actually filmed this video when I was 18 weeks, but I had two little munchkins running around the living room the whole time I was filming, and I thought that I kept them quiet enough to get through the video, but in editing, I was through half the footage and already annoyed at the background noise, so I decided to do it again. Hi guys, welcome to my first pregnancy update video. As of today, I am 21 weeks and 2 days, so just past the halfway point. This is my third pregnancy, considered high risk, as I was with both of my past pregnancies as well, but with this one, actually even more high risk than before. So in my first two pregnancies, I had gestational diabetes. And then I found out when my second born, actually on his second birthday, I found out that I am diabetic. So going into this pregnancy, it took a lot of thought beforehand of just if we were ready for another diabetic pregnancy, having a conversation with my endocrinologist about the risks and if I was okay to try to get pregnant. So actually before we moved to Ohio, my last visit with my endocrinologist in Arizona, I asked that question. Would it be okay if I got pregnant? Are there any concerns on their end based off of what my numbers were looking like and the medications that I was on and things like that? And the doctor said, oh yeah, no, you're absolutely fine. Your numbers look great. All the medications you're taking are safe to take during pregnancy. Go for it. With being high risk, the doctor that I go to is amazing. I had a very poor experience with my previous doctor. That's the doctor that I saw for both my pregnancy with Liam and Hunter, and he delivered both of them. I don't have any good things to say about him. I have a lot of trauma from that, and finding a good doctor that was really going to listen to me, explain everything to me, and take any concerns that I had serious was very important to me, and I feel like I lucked out. I chose my doctor based off of a recommendation from a friend at work, and she's incredible. But with being high risk, they also have me consulting with what they refer to as the high risk doctor at the hospital where I'll be delivering. So that doctor handles everything in relation to my diabetes, as well as any other complications that come up during the pregnancy, where then I still see my OBGYN on a regular basis for my normal prenatal care. Being in a high-risk pregnancy, of course, it mostly is because I am diabetic, but it's also because I did deliver Hunter prematurely. So for those of you that don't know, Hunter was born at 35 and 5, and he also had complications during labor and delivery, which then caused a lot of issues with him after birth, where then he ended up spending 7 weeks in the NICU. So another thing that I love about my current OBGYN is that she completely heard me out on everything that I experienced with him, and we've taken a lot of precautions to avoid that happening this time around. We did talk about the possibility of me having preeclampsia in my first pregnancy that was not diagnosed by my former doctor. So they proactively have me on a baby aspirin to help with preeclampsia, and they also did a lot of blood work and a urine test. I did a 24-hour urine test to test how my kidneys are functioning and all sorts of different things, just really being proactive on these all the potential and risk and concerns that can come from having any repeats of what I experienced with Hunter's pregnancy, labor, and delivery. In order to prevent the preterm labor, they have put me on progesterone shots. So once a week, starting at 16 weeks, I have a home nurse come and administer a shot of progesterone. I will continue to get these until I'm at 36 weeks and 6 days. The crazy thing about this pregnancy is that I found out when I was only 2 weeks pregnant. So to already be past the halfway point at 21 weeks is crazy. I felt like we were never gonna get here. So I kind of want to flashback on earlier in my pregnancy and explain a little bit about what that was like. And because right now, honestly, I'm kind of in this like smooth second trimester time where nothing's really going on. First trimester. For the first time out of my pregnancies, I was so nauseous. Luckily, I wasn't actually getting sick, but I just had constant nausea. So after a couple weeks of dealing with that, I ended up getting on Zofran to take care of that, where I think it was probably for about a month straight I was taking Zofran daily. So then once the nausea went away, the exhaustion kicked in, and I felt like I could sleep for 10 hours and I would still wake up and I would be falling asleep at my desk all day at work. And that went into my second trimester a little bit, but the past few weeks it's kind of fizzed out and I'm feeling good. I have a decent amount of energy. I don't have any nausea. Getting some back pain as baby's starting to get bigger, and I'm starting to show more with cleaning around the house and doing any kind of activity. Really, I do get a little bit of back soreness and back pain, but honestly that's really all that I'm dealing with at this moment. 15 weeks, things got a little complicated. So I went in for my typical follow-up appointment with my doctor, and she said that baby's heart rate was irregular. So she recommended that I get in with the high-risk doctor as soon as possible within the next week or two to get an ultrasound done and to monitor the heart rate. I luckily was able to get in same day. I went to the high-risk doctor. They did an ultrasound and baby's heart rate was only at 80, which is very low. So we talked about a lot of things that day. We talked about a lot of different conditions that he could have, different heart conditions and what those look like. Also talked about the fact that he could have a heart rate in the 80s my entire pregnancy and be perfectly fine at birth, or he could have a heart rate of 80 my entire pregnancy and have a heart risk and complications after birth. So I was then put on weekly follow-up ultrasounds. So the following week went in for another ultrasound. Baby's heart rate was 150. So it was like a huge sigh of relief. Made me question, I think, what was going on the week before, but it was like one day, especially because I saw both doctors in the same day, I was like, it was one day that his heart rate was lower and now it's back to normal. But the doctor said, we still want to make sure that it's good and we want, you know, to get more than just 2 times of his heart rate. So come back next week. Come back next week, totally just like, okay, they're gonna check it again. He's gonna be at a normal heart rate. I'm gonna be done with these appointments, gonna stop having all of this stress, and we're gonna be good. Heart rate at the 3rd appointment was 74. All the appointments, they looked a lot at his heart. They looked at how it was beating, the functionality of it, making sure that all the parts were developing okay, all the chambers were functioning and everything like that, and physically his heart looked good. Essentially what was happening, what we had realized at that appointment, was that instead of his heart rate being like dun 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 dun, it was dun 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 nothing. He was essentially like skipping the last beat. So it was coming out, you know, overall it was a lower heart rate. So that's another thing that triggered them to look a lot at how his heart was functioning, because it would almost suggest that one of the chambers wasn't functioning properly. And they did end up at that appointment throwing out a possible diagnosis called atrial bigeminy, which they said is something that they would just monitor very closely and typically only becomes a concern when it switches from being a low heart rate to being a very high heart rate. And so that was something that we were just going to continue to monitor. So I came back next week, you know, for the typical, just another follow-up appointment. And again, 150. So we came back one more, you know, again for my next appointment. And again, heart rate was, I think, in the 140s the last time. So the doctor came in and said, I'm good to let you, you know, go back to a normal appointment regimen. I don't think we need to watch the heart rate as closely. And I was cleared for 5 weeks out to come back and check on the heart rate again. So that was a huge scare. We have a lot of relief now, but in the midst of it, it was terrifying and very, very stressful, with everything already knowing that I am high risk and the complications that just come hand in hand with that. Having a heart condition was something that was just like, it was hard to even imagine having to go through that on top of everything else. And the last thing that we are doing, just to eliminate as many risks as we possibly can, is I will be having a C-section. Again, being high risk and being diabetic, that C-section will be scheduled. So actually at my appointment last week, me and my doctor were talking about the C-section, and she said that we can schedule it at my next appointment, which will be in the middle of December. So she gave me the time frame of when they would like to do the C-section, between 38 and 39 weeks. And basically said pick a day and pick a time and let me know and we'll get you on the schedule. Which is absolutely crazy to literally pick your kid's birthday. I just think is nuts. That's also considering that I don't go into labor prior to that, but with every precaution that we've taken, and having a doctor that'll actually hear me out if I call at 35 weeks and say I think I'm in labor, unlike my last doctor, will take me serious. Week in my pregnancy app is a weird one. Baby is the size of an endive. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. But according to this, 10.5 inches and 12.7 ounces. From what I have heard from my ultrasounds, he is definitely bigger than that, but that's kind of how it goes around here. I have very big babies. Liam, who was full term, was 8 pounds and 9 ounces, and Hunter, who again was born at 35 and 5, was 8 pounds and 13 ounces. So every ultrasound they talk about how baby's measuring, it never surprises me that he's measuring ahead. Definitely not as far ahead as the boys were measuring. He's typically within a few days to maybe a week ahead in measurements, but still expecting another very big baby. Yes, I'm wearing Christmas pajama bottoms, don't judge me. But I'm very much so showing. Last thing that I thought of to add is this baby is crazy active. I feel so much movement and get kicks and everything all the time, and I haven't really had that with the previous pregnancies either, so that's very exciting. But thank you to anybody that watched this, and we'll see you